Welcome back to Simbright Fashion Academy YouTube channel for another interesting tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to sew this beautiful princess dart turtleneck peplum. As you can see, it's really patterned. So this is what I came out with. So you can see the patterns right here. So this is what you are going to learn in this class. And it also has a zipper at the front. It has a turtleneck or mandarin collar, and it has a full peplum. So this is what the back looks like. As you can see, it's very full. So you'll be learning the tips and tricks to make your peplum very full. I'll encourage you to stay till the end of this tutorial. There are so many sewing techniques you are going to learn in this class. So please stay tuned to the end of this tutorial to learn more. Thank you. So the first thing we are going to do is to draft our basic bodice pattern. So I'm creating 1 inch for my zipper line. The zipper is going to be at the front, so you have to create 1 inch zipper line for it. Next, from the shoulder, I'll take my chest line, my bust point, under bust, waistline, and the full length of this blouse. I'm using 24 inches for my full length. So I went ahead to mark this line again so I can get a straight line. So you can see me ruling my lines across, as you can see. So after that, we are going to rule the shoulder line too. So here is my shoulder, my chest, my bust point, under bust, waist, and the full length at 24 inches. Taking my shoulder divided by 2 on the shoulder line, and I'll mark it on the chest line too. My neckline is 3 inches by width. I came down by 1 inch and connected, and I made a straight line for my armhole. I'll get the midpoint of my armhole, and I'm going to go in by 0.75 and connect. On the chest line, I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. I added half an inch for an ease, but this is for fat people anyway. If you're on the slim side, just use only your bust divided by 4. My waist divided by 4, I marked it and I added half an inch too, and I connected. I'll come on the hem line. I'm going to mark my hip divided by 4, added an ease to it, and connected as well. So you might ignore the ease anyway, it's not necessary, just for fat people. So I added my dart of 1.5 inches and connected. So the next thing is my nipple to nipple measurement. I'm marking it on the lines, and I'm going to connect with a straight line from the bust point to the hem line, and I'm going to impute this dart 0.75 0.75 on each side of my dart to create the waist dart. So I've created the waist dart. I'm going to connect my armhole. So the front basic bodice pattern is ready right now. So we are going to create the princess dart right now. So on the princess dart, I'll come down by 1.5 inch from the midpoint of my armhole, and I'm going to connect. So you come down by 1.5 inch. You can also connect to the midpoint. Then you add 1 inch and reconnect your armhole. My bust dart is 2 inches. From the bust point, I connected 2 inches and divided it into 2 and came out by 0.75 from that midline to connect the bust dart. So here is my center front. On the under bust, I marked my under bust circumference divided by 4, and what I have left, I put on the center front side half an inch, and the rest of it I added it the other way. So for this under bust, just go by the under bust that works for you, but I like to use this method and it works perfectly for me. So I'm going to connect, as you can see right now. Then I'll connect it to the waistline, as you see. So we are done contouring the under bust line, and this is my zipper line. So my neck width is 3 inches. And I connected. So if you're on a bigger size, use 3.5 inches. I actually use 3.5 inches anyway. So this is my neckline coming out to the zipper point. So this is F1 and F2, and we are done with the front pattern. So we'll go over to the back pattern right now. So I'm extending my chest line, and my waistline will be shortened by 2 inches because of the bust dart technique. So I'm going to mark my waistline at 15 inches. So the front line was 17, so here I mark 15 inches. So here is the shoulder line, chest line, and the waistline. That is all you need for the back. And this is the center back. So I'm imputing my shoulder divide by 2 on the shoulder line and on the chest line, and my 3 inches neck width. I came down by 1 inch and connected. Then I draw a straight line for my armhole. So I find the midpoint and came in by 0.5 and connected. Then my neck width is 1 inch for the back, and I connected the 1 inch, as you can see. So now my bust divide by 4, I marked it on the chest line and added half an inch of an ease, which I told you is optional, and I'm going to connect my armhole. Next is the waistline divide by 4. So the back is actually that less. I added half an inch of an ease. So if you want to create a dart for the back, no problem, but I made it that less and you can see how it fits. So I contour the back by 1 inch. So you need to contour the back so it relaxes at your back very well. And replace it again on the side. I replace half an inch on the chest line and 1 inch on the waistline and connected. So you can see what I have right here. So the pattern is ready. This is the back and this is the front. So I came down by 4 inches. That is for the opening before the zipper. So at this point is where we have our zipper. So I came down by 4 inches for it, and this is the zipper line. So this part I mark now will be open, as you can see. So the next thing we want to do now is to create that shape in the front, the shape we have in the front. So I'm going to create it from the dart to the waistline. So, and then I blend it up to the center front. So you just blend that shape you see at that front this way, and all of this part will be the peplum. Okay, so that was where I fixed the peplum from the back rolling out to the front. So but I just want to come in by 1.5 inch. I just want to taper that part a little bit, so I made a little adjustment at that part and cancel the one I had before. Then I also noticed that I connected this line to the back waistline. It's supposed to be connected to the front waistline. Sorry about that. So I have to cancel the first one I made to the back waistline. So because of the bust dart technique, once I close up the bust, it matches up. So my dart for the princess dart, I came out by half an inch and half an inch. I need to put a dart in it. So I realized I did not put the dart, and now I'm putting the dart. So you come up from the bust point by 1 inch and share your dart half an inch, and then connect that point. So you can see how I connected it. So the first half an inch is where I'll come out by 1 inch and connect back to the armhole. So I came out and connected and came out by 1 inch, then connect back to the armhole. Then from that 1 inch I came up from the bust point, I connected to the half an inch again to the armhole. So that is just the princess dart, the dart on the armhole. So I'm cutting out what I have now because I'm done with this pattern. So I'm cutting out all the darts. As you can see, I'll go into the neckline and then cut out like this. So I'm closing up my bust dart, as you can see, and this is what the pattern for the front looks like. So I'm going to cut out the back pattern too and cut out the center back. So here is my pattern, and this is what I expect you to have for this dress. So the peplum is going to run from the back the way I'm demonstrating it into the front. So when we move into the sewing tutorial, you will understand what we are doing here. So I've added half an inch all around, and on the side I added 1.5. So I'm making a notch at the under bust because I want to create my bustier right now and go over to stitch the bustier. So I have my lining here, I have my fabric here. So each piece here is 4 pieces as usual. So I'm going to take off my pattern right now, and then we want to start creating the design at the front. So the design at the front is actually very technical. So we are going to work on it on the right side of the Ankara fabric. So it depends on where you actually want the design to be, but I'm working on the right side first. So for this right side, I brought a 2 mesh. So this mesh I lay on top of it to make it a little bit dimmer. So I'm going to cut my 2 mesh. That is, I'll place my 2 mesh on top of the Ankara and cut. So I just cut it exactly the shape of my bustier, which I've cut. So make sure you secure with your pin before you do that. So I actually took my time to trim out the mesh so it relaxes on the bustier accordingly. So after cutting this, I also cut for the other. So you can see it's a little bit dimmer right now, and I went ahead to secure with my stitches. So after securing with our stitch, now we want to start the design. So like I said, this design is actually technical. So what I did was I came down by 1/2 inch from my neckline and marked, then came down by 2 inches and marked, then divided by 2 and got the center point. So after I got the center point right there, so I have to use my marker because I didn't really know if you are seeing what I'm marking. So just follow my mark lines. So from the center line, I came in by 1.5 inches, and I connected from the 1.5 inches to the 1 inch line on the opposite side. So from that 1.5 inch, I came out by 1.5 inch again, and I came down again by 1 inch on both sides. So you have to be creative on this part. So you can see how I connected. So whatever shape you want to give, just go ahead and give it. Then I'm going to draw a straight line, as you can see me do right here. So these lines are the lines I'm going to follow when I'm stitching this design. So here I came down by 1 inch again. So I came down by 1 inch, and then I came in by 1.5 inch from the center front. Then I came down by 2 inches again, as you can see, 2 inches, and got the midpoint. So I will use that midpoint now to connect the 2 inches, just like a triangle. So you just mark a triangle. So of course you are seeing what I'm doing right here, so just follow what I'm doing. Then I marked a straight line and marked a straight line. You can even give this a diamond shape, you can give it a triangle shape, any shape of your choice. Just go ahead and be creative with it. Then I also came down again by 2 inches, and from that 2 inches I started to come in by 1.5 inch. Okay, so you remember you have 1 inch zipper line. So if you want the shape to actually show, don't mark on the zipper line, because when you stitch your zipper, the zip will take it. So let me highlight what I don't know if you really saw, because this fabric, actually with the chalk I'm using, it appears it's not really showing well, but at least you see what I'm doing. And by the time we go over to the sewing machine, I believe you will see exactly what this design looks like. So I just marked this to show you how to go about the design. So what you are going to do is to follow this design and make your own pattern. So I'm using my bias to stitch this. So you can use a velvet bias, you can use a normal bias. So whatever bias that looks good for this dress, just go ahead and use it. So we are going over to the machine now. So I'm going to place the bias on top of the lines I made, and I'm going to top stitch on both sides. So this is how I'm top stitching. So you can see I'm top stitching on the line. So I made the first line. So the first line I cut it out diagonally. Then I also place the next line. So I'm also going to stitch on the other side. So after that, I also cross it. But before I crossed it, I folded in my bias. You can see how I folded my bias. I folded it once like that and place it on top of it just to give it a neat finishing. So you have to place it on top of it and then stitch on the side of it to the end. Okay, so like I said, you can create different designs. You must not follow the one you see in the video. You can be creative on yourself. So I'm going to stitch the other side too. Now I'm done with one side, so I'm going to cross the other side. So I will stitch on both sides of the bias, but I'll first stop stitch on the first side to the part I marked, then I cut. So after I'm done cutting, I'll turn it the other way and sew the other side. Now I need to close up the rough part, so I'll fold my bias again and place on top of it. So this design is actually the first pattern. So I'm going to sew on the sides like that until I get to the end and cut off. Then I'll continue right away with this same process. So I'm going to stitch the other side to complete the first process. So this is it, and you can see how neat and clean it looks. So I'm going over to the next pattern. So this next pattern has another design, so I want you to watch how I stitched this. So I placed it and left this part. I didn't start from the beginning because I'm going to lift it up. You see how I lift it up to cover it up. So I'll just stitch to the side. So before I got to the end, I stopped. I didn't stitch to the end of both of them. This is a different design, like I said. You see I left this and left this part. So you are going to see how I'm going to cross it right now. So I will lift that part that is open and put this under it this way to cover it, just to give that pointy triangle shape. Then I will now stitch. So when you are working on this dress, follow this video very well. It's self-explanatory. So you can see I have made that triangle and cut diagonally. So I cut diagonally on both sides. So once you have gotten the triangle shape, then I will now fold the straight one the way I did before. I'll place it on top of it like that. And I'm going to stitch on both sides straight like this till I got to the end. And I also did the same this way until I got to the end too. So I'll also fold in this other side to cover it up. Okay, so I'll cover that part up. So you have to do this very neatly so it's not noticeable at all. So I'll also sew on the other side, as you can see. So you can see the ones I made, how beautiful they are looking. So I'm going to use the same pattern too. So you can see I measured it to be sure they are in 2 inches of spacing. So that is the same spacing I'll give for the rest of them. So this is what I came out with. I don't have enough bias anyway for this project, so I use what I have. So you can go ahead and fill up this as much as you wish. So for this particular part is the plain part. From the under bust we also have another pattern. So this pattern I came off from the under bust by 1 inch and mark my 2 inches. So the 2 inches from the bust, under bust, I came in by 1 inch, then connected the same line. So like I said, just look at what I'm doing and follow me do. The spacing is just 2 inches. So now I gave a spacing of 1.5 after I made the first pattern for the second pattern. So the second pattern, I made it a little longer. So from the bust point, I came out a little bit by 1 inch and then created the design. So it's the same thing I showed you I'm making here too. So like I said, the patterns can change. So I gave another spacing of 1.5 and created another design. So the next one is very long. It's longer than the ones we have below. So I also spaced it at 2 inches and connected. So if you're a fashion designer, you need to be creative, honestly. If you are not creative, you might not really have success. So for the upper one, I came down by 1/2 inch and I also spaced at 2 inches and connected my triangle. So that is how I made these patterns. So now I use a mesh to cover them. So this one will have a mesh on top of it, just on top of that spacing, not on the whole dress. Then you secure the mesh with your pin and then stitch the mesh on your machine. So that is what I did for the rest of it. So now I'm done stitching and I'm trimming out the mesh. So I'm going to trim them out accordingly. As you can see, the parts that are excess, I'll just trim it to the shape of that design. So and that is what you see me do right here. So after trimming, I can now go and run my bias on top of it. So I'm done trimming. I'll use my bias and use the same method I taught you on the machine and cover it up accordingly. So here I'm done. The pattern is ready. So the next thing is to create my bustier. So for my bustier, I love to use my pattern and I use my bust radius all around and then cut it off from the under bust. So you have your own method of making your bustier. So this is my own method and that is what I'm going to use to cut my wadding. So I'll move ahead to cut my wadding and I added 1/2 inch on it. So I'm going to place my wadding on my bustier pattern. So I cut out the 1 inch on the zipper line because that part will be bulky. So here I've placed my hairstay on top of it. I'm going to sew my bustier. So I'm done sewing my bustier and I gave it a good press for both lining and fabric. So now I'm going to cut out the excess princess dart. So there will be a little excess on your princess dart. Just go ahead and cut it off. Then and cut out the excesses on the down piece. So this is the back pattern. I'm going to put it together. I added 1/2 inch to stitch it. So I will stitch 1/2 inch for both lining and for fabric too. So this is my back pattern and is ready with the lining. So the next thing I'm going to do is to place the front pattern and sew the shoulder seam line. So I'll go ahead and stitch the shoulder seam line. I'm done sewing the shoulder seam line now. So now I just want to use my bias and cross across the two of them. Okay, so you can, after sewing the bustier part, the flat side, you can use your bias and continue your design. So I'll just use my bias and did a little design. So here is my zipper. So the zipper is a detachable zipper. You need to buy a detachable zipper for this. I came up by 1 inch and then I'm going to mark 1 inch on the zipper space and I'll use it to stitch the zipper. So remember where the zip is going to stop. So I'll go over to the machine right now and I'm going to sew this zipper from the 1 inch above I marked and sew it on the 1 inch zipper line. So I'll stop where the zipper stops. So here you can see my zipper is ready. So I created a notch on that part in between where we are going to have the opening at the neckline. I created a notch. So I'm going to match seam line to seam line. My shoulder seam lines, I'm going to match them with the lining and the fabric right now. So I'm going to secure the zipper part too. So you just place it on top and secure with your pins across. So I made sure I match it very well and secure with my pins. So here I'm done securing with my pins, as you can see. So I'll turn it the other side to stitch. But before I stitch, I'm going to reduce my lining because we are going to turn this to have a perfect inseam finishing. So I will reduce my lining by 1/2 inch. So just go ahead and sew your lining, cut off your lining at 1/2 inch, only on the front piece, please, because the front piece we are going to turn it to have a perfect inseam finishing. Okay, just the front. As you can see, I cut out 1/2 inch, so you can see the lining is shorter by 1/2 inch right now. I'm matching the lining and the fabric together with my pins, and I went ahead to cut off the excess zipper. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to stitch the lining on top of the fabric this way. I will go in, and then just to stop the zipper, you have to go in at that point, then go down. So I'll do the same on this part too. So here you can see I'm done sewing. So this is what it looks like. So I'm going to flip all my seams to the part of the lining and top stitch right there and give it a good press. So here you can see what I have at the zipper point. So I'm going to match right side to right side of the fabric. Also match right side to right side of the lining. So you can see the back lining is longer by 1/2 inch. So that is how it should be. It should be longer by 1/2 inch. So the next thing we are going to do now, because the dress is ready and you can see how neat it's looking. So we are going to take the measurement of the peplum right now. So we are going to start off the peplum from the dart. So I'll go ahead and measure the front one. I got 8 inches and the back one I got 10 inches. So we are going to calculate right now. The front one is 8 inches times 2 is 16 because we have 2 sides, and the back we have 21. Altogether is 37 inches. So we are going to use 37 inches for our calculation. We are going to divide by 4 because we are cutting 4 360 degrees peplum. We are dividing it by 6.28, and the radius came out as 2 inches. So we are cutting 4. We divided everything we had by 4, okay? And we are going to cut 4 circles using 2 inches radius. So that is the only way we can have this fullness you saw on the video. So I've already folded my fabric right now. The length of my peplum is 8 inches. I added 1 inch, that is for seam allowance, plus the 2 inches radius. Everything is 11 inches. So I folded 11 inches on this side again. To cut a circle, you can see how I did that. So I'm marking my 2 inches radius. Then the length is 9 inches. Of course, you know how to go about 360 degrees peplum. So I'll go ahead and cut it out, as you can see. So after cutting, I decided to open the first one I cut to cut out more pieces. So I folded my fabric into 2 and placed it on top of it. Then I'm going to make a mark on the radius. So by the time I cut it out, I will see the mark and cut it out too. So make sure you secure with your pin. So you can see I'm making the mark on the radius. So I'm going to follow the shape of the pattern, which is the circle, and I'll cut the circle all around. So I'll cut all around, as you can see. So after cutting this, I'll have 3 circles. Then I pinched the one in between and cut out the circle, the radius. So here I have 3 pieces, but actually I cut 5 anyway. There will be fullness at the back, so that was why I cut 5. You can even go ahead and cut 6 if you want it really full. You cut 6 of 2 inches radius, okay? So that will be the pleating allowance for you. So instead of making 4 of this circle, please make 5 or 6 of these circles using 2 inches, okay, as your radius. So it will give you that very fullness you desire. So I stayed with my pepper stay because I did not have a peplum stay. But if you have a peplum stay, just go ahead and stay. You can use your pepper stay too. So I use my paper stay and I've joined all of them together, both lining and fabric. So the next thing I'm going to do is to place them together, and I'll go over to my machine. So before that, pin all the joinings. So I took my time to make sure I pin the 5 joinings. It actually have 5 joinings anyway, or 4 joinings. So make sure you pin them very, very well. So after pinning them, I'm going to go over to the machine to stitch. So you can see this is actually a very big project. So if you are making this dress for a client, you actually need to charge very, very well. So now I'm done pinning, and I make sure I pin everything. So you need enough pins too. So I'm using my crinoline. You can use 3 inches crinoline, and then use your hemming gum, place on top of it, but don't get the crinoline to the edge, then stitch at 1/2 inch to the end. So that is actually what I did. I have to stitch like this till I got to the end of this peplum. So I kept stitching. Of course, I know you know how to go about this. It's the same process. The only thing is that the circles are 5 in number. So now I'm going to flip all my seams to the part of the lining, then top stitch. So make sure you top stitch. This part is not very easy, but just try to top stitch it. It will help the peplum to lay very, very well and relaxed. So I kept stitching, as you can see, like that, until I got to the end of it. So this is what I got. I'm very happy I came out with something very nice and beautiful. So this is my peplum. So it's actually looking so beautiful and sweet. So the next thing we are going to do is to bring back the dress, so we can start putting it on the dress. So we are going to sew on only on the fabric, only at the back first, only at the back. So I'll just bring the peplum. So now I want to show you the technique I used, and if you follow this technique, you are going to have success. So remember, our circle was 5 number, okay? 5 against 4. So I got the midpoint of this 5 circle and secure it to the center back. Now the back alone has 3 circles. I put 3 circles on the back alone. So I'm going to pin the end of the circles at the sides. So just have it in mind that the back has 3 circles. So whichever way you are going to align these circles and make beautiful pleats to it, just go ahead and do that. So here, the 3 circles, I start pleating them and pleating them. You see how I'm pleating them? So I pleated, just that is what I'm going to do right now. So it's only these 3 circles, only at the back. We are leaving the one circle for the front, okay, on each side. So I'll go over to the machine right now, and I'm going to stitch to the fabric. So after stitching, this is what I got only on the fabric. Can you see that? So now, remember, I opened 1/2 inch. Please make sure you open 1/2 inch on that side. That will enable us to stitch the front. So just leave 1/2 inch, open 1/2 inch, don't stitch to the end of the side. So now I'm going to bring my lining to cover it up. So I'll match my lining, as you can see. I'll match it and put all the peplum I just stitched right now. So I'm going to match it and stitch at 1/2 inch. Because I want to have a perfect inseam finishing, that is why I'm following this process. So I don't want to see my seams outside or inside my lining at all. So I'll go ahead and flip everything. Just put everything, both for the front peplum, the back peplum you have stitched. Everything will go inside right now, okay? So of course you are seeing what I'm doing here. So I'll just pin the side seams, pin the center back, cover it with the lining. By the time we stitch, the peplum will be inside. So I'll go ahead and stitch at 1/2 inch. So I'm going to stitch this one first, then later we'll come back for the other one. So I'm done stitching, and this is what we have. So now I'm going to put in the remaining of the peplum. So you also put it in, so it will give way for the front part to be stitched. So the front part, I'm putting it together. You remember the lining was cut at 1/2 inch. We reduced the lining by 1/2 inch. So this is to enable us to have a perfect finishing. So I'm done stitching. This is what I got. You can see how I stitched it. Can you see that? So all the peplum is inside right now. Can you see? So now the zipper part has a little opening. So open up the seams this way and then turn the back and follow the stitch and stitch to the end, and that is it. I did the same on the other side. So by the time I close it up, everything is closed. But remember, the neckline is open to turn it. So I'll just go ahead and turn it from the neckline at the front. So that is it. So I made sure I brought out the front piece very well. So later I will go ahead and give it a good press. Then I can also top stitch if I can top stitch the lining. I love to top stitch a lot because it makes it my dress nice and flat and smooth. So this is what I have on the inside. You can see all the seams are inside. So now we are going to sew the remaining peplum right now on top of the front. So I'm going to mark 2 inches for that. So from the side, keep on following the shape 2 inches like that till I got to the dart and I stopped. So I'm going to pleat in my peplum right there. So if you have more peplum for the front, you will have enough fold at that part, but I only used one for this. And I'm going to repeat the same 2 inches on this side as well, up to the dart line, and then I'm going to stitch. So after stitching, this is my front. You can see it's looking very beautiful. So the dress is ready. We want to jump into the neckline. So my neckline, I stitched it together before I took my measurement of my neckline. So my neckline measurement, I got 18 inches. So I brought my collar stay and measured 18 inches exactly for my collar stay. So now I'm going to, this is 18 inches, so I just want to make that collar stay straight at that part. Then put it together, secure with your pin, and on top of it from the end, just go ahead and measure 1 inch inwards. So you measure 1 inch inwards and just create that collar shape. That is all. So I'll trim out that shape as you can see. Now I'm going to bring in my fabric. So I've already stayed my fabric right here. Then I'll place the collar stay on it and secure with my pin. So the next thing I'm going to do is to start adding my seam allowances. After pinning, I'm going to add 1/2 inch seam allowance all around the shape of this collar. So go ahead and add 1/2 inch to it. Then place the right side this way on the other part and also cut out. So I stitch before I cut out. Please go ahead and stitch beside the collar, okay, and leave this part open to turn. Of course, you know how to go about a mandarin collar. So I gave it a good press. So this is what my collar looks like. So the next thing I'm going to do is to bring in the neckline. I top stitch the collar too. So the part I top stitch will be on the inside, and I'm going to sew from the inside. Then after sewing the inside, this is what I got. Then the front piece, I will fold in 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. So I have a detailed video on how to sew a mandarin collar on this channel, so you can also check it out. So this is what I have as my collar. You can see the collar is very beautiful. Use your basic bodice pattern to cut your sleeve. So I stitch my sleeves, as you can see, according to the shape of my arm. Then I brought in the dress and turn it to the I'm going to turn the sleeve, the armhole, and insert my sleeve. Of course, you know how to sew your sleeve, so just go ahead and attach your sleeve accordingly. So that is it, and I ran my stitches for both of them. So the dress is ready, and you can see how beautiful it looks. I believe you learned a lot in this class. Okay, so this is how to go about this beautiful princess that bustier with beautiful peplums. So thank you for coming, and don't forget to subscribe, and see you in the next